The Avengers. Dun, 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 dun.
They didn't have it this time, though.
Well, not in the opening.
We couldn't do our conducting
we always
like we always
conduct
do.
along. It's like the opening of Game of Thrones. You just gotta.
You just have
dun,
to.
dun, 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 dun. But we didn't hear it in the opening because the Avengers weren't a thing yet.
That's true. I guess that's true.
This is the birth of the Avengers.
It was weird to go back knowing it, everything we know, all the phases we've been through.
We've been back a few times. Well, before we get into the movie, it's banter time. This is this part of the show everybody loves.
Oh, of course. Why they really tune in.
When they get to sit here, put their headphones in, tune out a little bit, and just repeat and scream into their phone, get to the movie. That's why y'all tune in.
Nobody cares.
Where's the skip button? 15 seconds at a time. It's not enough.
Well, I have little to banter about. We are dog sitting again. We have another guest.
Yeah.
Millie went home, but Leroy's here, and he's 13.
Hey, you tune into our YouTube episode.
Yeah.
And at the break, when we go to the AI game, you'll meet Leroy.
What a great incentive do we have? Dogs? A different dog, maybe,
Honestly,
every time?
This should become the show, is that the AI...
Which dog are you going to meet?
This very high concept. The AI gives us movies to watch. We have to watch them or the world will get destroyed. We have to talk about the movies afterwards while we're dog sitting a different dog every week.
Right. More gimmicks, please.
Clarity. The point is clarity. That's what kept the MCU in line for so long. One thing we did do during the pandemic, I think, is we rewatched the entire MCU.
Oh, did we?
I believe we did.
Right.
I think that was the last time we watched. Which brings us to today's movie that the AI forced us. Twisted my arm.
Oh, no.
Made us watch
Ouch.
The Avengers. The first Avengers, 2012.
That's right.
Starring Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, Chris Johansson, Chris Renner, Chris L. Jackson, and Chris what was?
Ruffalo.
Chris Ruffalo and Chris Smulders.
Chris Smulders.
Yeah. Oh, and Chris Hiddleston. How can we forget?
Oh, of course. Starring role.
Phenomenal. Chris Hiddleston. And Chris, that one extra who's running for her life. I mean, full sprint.
Oh my
It's
God.
incredible. Look up the
just
greatest extra in movies, and she's on the list.
We had just seen this video. It just popped up randomly. We're like, sure, we'll watch it. And it was all about this one extra running just full out in the Avengers.
It's amazing.
And we were watching it now. We're like, we have to watch out for her.
Oh, you can't miss her.
You can't miss her.
I remember seeing her the first time I saw this movie because I was like, that lady is bolting. And that's what I would be doing when the Chitauri are attacking Manhattan. I'm gone. All right, let's talk about the Avengers. It's all I've ever wanted to do was corner tens of thousands of people and make them listen to me talk about the Avengers. And that's you now, tens of thousands of listeners.
All tens of thousands of you.
Humans, what can they do but burn? That's the first quote I wrote down because it's what the Chitauri says to Loki when they're talking about taking over the planet. And I said, you know what? What can we do but burn? Sometimes...
I can think of a lot of things. Some people can hula hoop.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I can't, but some people can.
Humans, what can they do but burn? And Loki was like, well, they can hula hoop.
Have you seen the whoop-de-doodle? Whatever they're called. There's like fun names for
hula hoop tricks?
Yeah.
Talking about the Chitauri. So Loki summons an army, or Loki is offered an army of Chitauri soldiers to come take over Earth in exchange for the Tesseract, which we later find out that here's the thing. I'm going to talk about later Marvel movies because if you haven't seen them, you don't care. And if you do care, you've seen them. So it's okay. So we later learn the Tesseract has the Space Stone in it. Right? God, sometimes I get the stones mixed up and I feel so stupid. But I'm pretty sure the Tesseract has the Space Stone in it.
Oh, no.
Because the Loki's scepter has one of the other stones in it, and I think it's the Mind Stone. It is.
Oh, it is the
because
Mind Stone. That's right.
No, the Mind Stone is in Vision.
Well, not yet.
We're not... Yeah, because it was in the scepter. Okay, I said I wouldn't do this. I'm getting ahead of myself.
You're getting so
Point
bad.
is, Loki gets the Chitauri
Mm-hmm.
army in exchange for giving the Chitauris, or who it turns out to be Thanos, the Tesseract.
Right.
The Chitauri, I'm like, man, if you live in a fantasy world, right, and you're an army of ugly, monstrous creatures, you know what I mean, they know, right? Like, they know they don't. I'm thinking about orcs in Lord of the Rings.
They know, right?
Or various other fantasies where you just have these expendable armies of easily destructible bodies. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing, too, is like, these guys explode very easily. They're not hard to kill. And I'm like, is this your best option for an army? Say again, just to branch out into the MCU a little bit more. What if Loki had hired the Nova Corps? Not that they would have done it, or the gold Elizabeth Debicki people from Guardians of the Galaxy, who were pretty better than the Chitauri at fighting a battle. You know, would we have New York City today? Is my question.
I'm sorry, I think I lost track of the question during the question.
For some reason, people tell me that a lot when I'm talking about Marvel. I'm just saying.
It was a tangled speech, and apparently I was supposed to answer something at the end.
Ugly, expendable monster armies always fail. And because they're so
you're
easily...
saying if they were more beautiful, we would have a harder time defeating them?
First of all, yes.
Or we would be like, you know what? Y'all are hot. You may take over.
Too pretty to slaughter en masse.
We would rather have you in charge anyway.
But the point is, they're never presented as weak and destructible as your armies of orcs and the like.
Well, you could say
that
like an evil villain with an expendable, ugly army would be like, it's cool if they're pretty easy to kill because I'm just down for things to die around me. You know.
Yeah.
It's fine. Mow through them.
But
all
then
more fun
you
for me.
Lose.
But I have more.
But what I'm saying is consistently from Sauron to Thanos, you lose.
That's the hubris, though, coming in to play, where they're like, I have an exhaustible supply, and then turns out...
Are you suggesting to me that hubris was Thanos' undoing?
Certainly Loki's in this film.
Yeah. I do actually kind of want to, like, get into it legitimately because, like, Loki's hubris and stuff, there's a lot of stuff I really love about this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this movie.
Yeah.
We just say that up front.
It's fun. It's really fun.
It's a great movie. Mm-hmm. Kicking it off right up top, Loki shows up for the Tesseract, solos the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. army by himself with the scepter. Boom, boom, boom. Obviously starts mind controlling the Doctor and Hawkeye. I will just talk forever, so I just want to leave big pauses for you.
I mean, feel free to go.
Look, I also thought that when Nick Fury is chasing after Loki, when they're escaping, and Nick Fury shows up in a helicopter, and Loki takes his scepter and he shoots the helicopter, two things. One, there's always like a big boss in a helicopter. It feels like a bad move to me, because all you have to do is crash the helicopter, which I know in reality, all you have to do is crash the helicopter is probably an absurd statement.
All you have to do is hit a moving target.
That's like designed to not get hit.
Yeah, it's sort of like made to go into battles and stuff.
But helicopter is crashing and Nick Fury waits for it to get low enough and then he jumps and tucks and rolls. And I always thought that's how you got to get out if your helicopter's crashing.
Yeah,
or your plane is crashing. Just get to the door and wait for it to be maybe 15 feet off the ground, jump, tuck, and roll.
Right, and go in the, like, because he also went, like, he stayed in that area because he was like, the helicopter's going this way.
You don't want to go where it crashes.
Because a lot of people try to run in front, you know what I mean?
No, that's dumb.
And you're like, why are you doing that?
So jump out of a helicopter and get out of the way. That's the answer.
Obviously. I mean, so easy to do when a helicopter's crashing is to keep your fucking shit together and act logically.
And then Nick Fury calls Colby Smulders.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, what's going on? And he's like, he says something like, we're officially at war.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't think that Nick Fury has the authority to declare any kind of war.
There were so many times I was like, hey, wait a minute.
You can't do that.
There's so many steps we're missing here.
Can we talk about that? I assume tax dollars?
Okay, like Hulk got thrown into one plane, and I was like, okay, $7 billion
$7 billion right
jet
there.
destroyed.
Yep.
Like, that was just a split second of time, let alone this entire floating, like it can be on the ocean and also
It's an aircraft
in the sky
carrier that then lifts off and goes
and
up into the sky.
flies.
It's a fantasy, so I don't have to get into logistically why that's insane. Or
Also-
strategically kind of dumb too, but it's fine.
Well, and the cloaking. I was like, what
And it
about
cloaks.
planes? I mean, like, someone's trying to fly to Arizona and they fucking crash right into this aircraft carrier. We're like, oh my God.
They're just going to be like, oh, Boeing. Oh,
Well,
they really missed
speaking
that
of
one.
Boeing, I was thinking about Boeing so much during this movie because all this shit was like falling from the sky. And I was like, we're acting like this, no consequences. It's
Oh,
this
yeah.
giant K falling off the Stark Tower. But it... And I'm aware that the MCU spends a lot of time exploring the consequences of property damage and all these things.
They did once.
in some movies, in subsequent movies.
They
But
occasionally do, yeah.
every now and then. But, you know, I mean,
But yeah, they blamed it all on Boeing. They're like, who knew Boeing built this aircraft carrier that could fly and its whole propeller fell off and landed on some poor lady's farm
yikes.
in Nebraska.
And she's like, what in tarnation?
Oh, is that what they say in Nebraska?
I don't know what they say in Nebraska, but I feel like it is a good guess.
With among our tens of thousands of listeners, I know there's some Nebraskans.
Gotta be.
So let us know if you have ever said, what in tarnation?
What in tarnation?
When a piece of a plane fell into your
Or,
farm.
in fact, what would be your exclamation?
Oh, yeah. Even
If
better.
it, you know,
If not,
with a curse word, you know, what kind of down home Nebraskan saying
Yeah.
would be your go-to?
yeah. Also, okay, I don't remember. There's stuff about Avengers that I don't remember just because it gets buried in the deeper MCU mythology.
Right.
I don't remember this wall of council members. This is a movie I've
Right.
seen at least 4 times, but they show up and these talking heads from who knows where.
Who are they?
Who are they? They're S.H.I.E.L.D. They're the people in charge. They're the shadow government.
The deep state, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. And they're like,
I was
nuke
there's like
Manhattan.
5 of them. I know. I was like, wait, who? What? Well, that was what was fun too, was seeing all, especially with the early MCU movies. That was such a added delight to them.
Yeah.
Was all these little Easter eggs where you could go back and like, we saw that guy that ends up being definitely part of Hydra, and he's in
Okay.
that elevator meme, and he just has a little throwaway bit, but like,
Can
okay,
if I
whole thing.
can break
Yeah.
that down, it just there's a guy working on the ship at one of the computers. He's telling them something about the missile coming in or something.
Right.
I don't remember exactly what his bit was. And we realize, yeah, this is the guy from Winter Soldier who is working for S.H.I.E.L.D. at a much higher rank at this point,
Right.
and turns out to be all Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
And in that meme where Captain America's in the elevator and telling a joke, he's
and
the
they
guy.
all start fighting.
He's the guy. And he started,
It's
you know
him.
what? It just shows that there is a ladder to climb at S.H.I.E.L.D., and I do respect that.
They promote from within at
Well,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
as long as you're willing to Hail Hydra.
As long as you're willing to help him.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about the good stuff for a minute, because those little story details, I think, is really what set these MCU, like, kind of phase 2 especially apart.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot richer, I think, in the story, and you're getting more complicated plots where like you said, like, there are consequences
Yeah.
to a lot of their actions. I think those movies, especially in that middle tier, were very focused on, well, what's the fallout from this insane situation we've created?
Yeah.
And it's not so much just like, oh, heroes blow stuff up, and then, next day we don't talk about it anymore. It's like,
Right.
no, there's the Sokovia Accords.
Right. Or, friggin' Michael Keaton found some
Yes.
alien tech and made crazy weapons. Or, some girl gets inspired by Hawkeye and decides to
Yeah.
become friends with Florence Pugh. Like, all these different things happen because of all these various battles that go on everywhere.
I was thinking about Michael Keaton, the Vulture from Spider-Man,
I
Homecoming.
almost called him Birdman, which
Well,
he is.
Yes, he is also Birdman. But the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming,
Yep.
because for a minute, I'm thinking in this movie, Avengers, oh, man, you want to get into the construction business. You want to get into
1 trillion%.
reconstruction. You want to get into building. You want to get into concrete,
Auto insurance.
repair, auto insurance. Sure. But that was actually a big part of the Vulture story, was that he was in this reclamation project where we go and we clean out all these places that got destroyed. We collect all this alien tech and stuff. And yet they weren't allowed to know anything about it. And they weren't paid very well.
That's right.
And I think that's another just like really interesting thing that the MCU does, is sort of look at the economics of it too and say, look, you got these guys who you're basically having to go out and do all this heavy labor for you. You're not paying them very well. You treat them like garbage. Well, guess what? One of them becomes a supervillain.
Big surprise.
Big surprise.
Yeah.
Like like how you treat people has consequences. I don't know.
Huh?
It's just stuff
And
like
yet
that.
whoever was CGIing that was probably reflecting on the irony.
I mean, sure, absolutely. But that's the thing. I think that those are the kind of storylines that they don't have to put into those movies.
Very true.
And I think that doing so is like, well, let's make them a little better than just...
Right.
It doesn't have to just be CG lights flashing at each other. What if we throw in a little, like, can I just activate a few of your brain cells? And I appreciate that effort. And
Yeah.
sometimes it works really well. Winter Soldier is a
Yes.
great
Oh,
fucking movie.
So good.
Civil War is a great fucking movie, and both Infinity War and Endgame, I think, are great movies from a story standpoint, character standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah,
I was thinking that with this one, it was fun to see them kind of not know each other at
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
and sort of gain respect, I guess, just from actions. It was
Yep.
very much like, I don't really care what you say. I
Yeah.
have to watch you do something and then be like, okay, yeah, I trust you,
Yep.
or whatever. And I really liked that, like, that was Cap's first time meeting Natasha, right?
yeah,
I loved it. Like, they didn't really have that much to do with each other necessarily until he's like suit up or whatever. And Hawkeye's like, I can fly the plane. And he looks at Nat and she nods and he's like, okay. Like, he just immediately was like, if she
You
says
trust
it's
him,
fine,
I
I'm
do.
good.
yeah.
That was, kind of awesome how they were having so much trouble becoming a team, but they had seen enough of one another to kind of be like, we can hang.
Yeah. I can't just like, we talked about this a little in the game for this episode, but we really, if you're too young, you don't know. But we really didn't know if it was going to work
Right.
to do this Avengers movie. You got Iron Man, you got Cap, you got Thor, you got Iron Man 2, and the notion that they would put all these characters together into one movie was really out there. It was a big cinematic risk. A lot of people said too many egos on one set, too expensive, and also a lot of the times you throw a bunch of big stars into one movie, or even just a bunch of characters into one movie, it doesn't work.
It's true because you don't spend enough time on
Right.
the relationships. I really think
Yeah.
that's true. Like, the relationships are built so well
Yeah.
in these movies. That's what you care about in
Yeah.
Infinity War and Endgame and stuff.
Yeah.
If they hadn't made you care about the people,
Right.
all the lights in the world don't do
Yes.
shit for you.
Yes.
And I think that's part of what the struggle is with the new phases and everything, is that they have to get us to fall in love with new people. It's almost like you say about The Simpsons a little bit, where there's sort of people now trying to do The Simpsons rather than just doing The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Because it's been on for 1 trillion years, and it's people who grew up on The Simpsons trying to sound like The Simpsons
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So I
think
wonder that
that's-
about Marvel.
I
If it
think
has a
there's-
little bit of that.
I think there's some of that. I think there's also like, because it's a lot of the same people in charge still too, and you just forget like how hard you had to work to make it work early on, and you end up taking a lot for granted. And so while I think that there's some avenues they've succeeded in bringing in new characters to make me care about them, other times they really just are like flashing lights. Let's just throw flashing lights at each other. I've got beams of energy, throwing them at you. You got beams of energy, throwing them at me. And then you're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. here's going to be a really cool fight because all these music notes are coming up and we're going to, oh man, is it going to be like, are they going to be on a musical staff and climb in and trying to get away from each other? And each time they hit each other, there's going to be some kind of discordant sound being made. No, they just throw the music notes at each other. Doctor Strange,
that pissed me off.
One of the most disappointing fights.
Incredibly sad.
In the MCU.
And then we saw like the Sandman and Lucifer and the Sandman on Netflix having a fight with some
brilliant.
like real abstract shit. And it was fucking awesome. And I remember we talked about it after and we were like, where was this?
Yeah. To clarify, the Sandman, not Sandman from Spider-Man
Oh, yeah.
No Way Home.
Whoops.
Nick Fury is talking to Captain America. He's briefing him on this mission. And he tells him about Loki. And he says, he's not from around here. And I'm like, okay, Joss Whedon, real cute line, but not good information to give to your agent. He's not from around here. No, you say he's an alien god from another realm.
Right.
That's important for you to know, not some cutesy, he's not from around here. You know what I mean? Like, this is your top guy. Give him the information he needs, Nick Fury.
There were a couple of those moments. So some Whedonisms. But I will say, like, I was enjoying the humor in this one very much. And I thought it was better because it was so much more natural and they weren't winking so much at us about how they were joking.
Do you know why?
Which I think they do now a little bit more. Why?
Do you know why that is? I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I just think that he built this sense of humor certainly around Tony Stark that I think permeated a lot into the rest of the movies. And I think those early movies where he's very heavily involved, the dialogue is just so sharp, especially around him. I mean, if Iron Man had been not what it was, we're not here talking about this today.
No, there's no.
I also forgot that Bruce was trying to recreate the serum, the Captain America serum.
And that's how he had the gamma accident? The gamma
Yeah,
ray
I guess
accident?
so. Yeah.
Okay. Is that what happened in the Edward Norton movie?
Oh, I wonder. I don't know.
Speaking of volatile personalities that probably wanted a lot of creative control, I'm sure Edward Norton was one of those.
You know, I don't need to go and just recite all the articles that all the MCU nerds like myself have read about, you know, why the casting changed and stuff. But I will say I had a friend who worked on an Edward Norton movie and worked with him directly and said he's a really intricate person and that he can come off as standoffish, but he's just like really sure of how he wants things to be. And he's right. He's like, I mean, the guy's brilliant at what he does. And I think that's also true of Robert Downey Jr. So maybe if you had them both on set, it would be just chaos.
Too much.
I don't know.
I like Ruffalo.
Ruffalo's amazing.
I mean, I always love him.
Yeah.
But he did a really good job with... Bruce seemed like such a calm guy.
Yeah.
But you could see it. You could see his kind of simmering underneath how much... I don't know. How much he was maybe putting away or how much he was biting his tongue or something.
His first scene with Natasha in the Calcutta. That first scene, I mean, he's so good. Like you said, you see this simmering under the surface, or that moment where he kind of shouts at her and she gets scared and pulls the gun and he's like, I just wanted to see what you would do. He has no patience. He doesn't, like, he's been sought out so much and he just knows, he's like, you're nothing. If I could go with you and do what you want me to do, if you could force me to do something, I would love that. But hilarious. And I don't know, he just maintains this attitude that's so disconnected from humanity in a lot of ways because he feels like he needs to. It's like, I can't emotionally connect with you because I have to be totally isolated. And there's just a lot working under the surface there. And,
I could see
and you
him...
need a Ruffalo to pull that off.
Yeah, oh yeah. And I could see him also worrying about it, like how passionate he's allowed to get in any way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of excited, in terms of lustful, in terms of angry, in terms of scared. I mean, whenever he's stressed out, it's not just anger, it can't be. It's also fear.
Yeah.
You know, something, his survival instinct spit the bullet out that, when he tried to unalive himself, as he says in this film. I don't know. Maybe he's like, he wants to maintain that distance because he's like, no matter what emotion I get into, it could be too much for the Hulk.
What's yours? What triggers your Hulk to come out?
Oh my God. XL.
If you're Bruce Banner and you're like, there's one thing I can't do. Don't ask me to do a spreadsheet or everyone on this airplane dies.
I mean, it does make me real fucking mad. Like, computer stuff really does make me real fucking mad. When it doesn't work, I just like, I have no patience for it, and I like I will beat my shit up.
Your computer doesn't work, and you start bashing it like the Hulk. And I'm like, this is why it doesn't work.
And I feel bad because it's not the machine's fault. You know what I mean?
No, it's your fault for smashing it with your fists.
And it's not the program's fault necessarily. I don't know what I'm doing with it, but also, you know, please don't hurt me, AI. I don't mean to bruise your body.
I think AI is terrified of you. AI has seen you with Excel.
I fucking get real mad at Excel. But nobody wants me to do a spreadsheet anyway. They look like shit. How about you? What's your
Oh,
Hulk?
my spreadsheets are great. Oh,
well,
you mean
I know that. You have made some for me so that they would not look so much like shit.
No, I would just have to make sure that I am consistently eating small meals throughout the day.
Oh, okay.
Because if I get hangry, the Hulk's coming out.
You wouldn't like me when I'm hangry.
Exactly.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always hangry.
Taco!
I mean, he did have a taco
in
that one movie.
In Endgame, yeah.
Yeah. I also liked that conversation with him and Iron Man.
Yeah.
When he's kind of suggesting, like, have you tried to, like, live with it? Like the way I do with my arc reactor? Have you tried to figure out a way to control it as best you can and make it work for you?
Yeah.
And he does eventually. But I kind of like that idea that Tony is like gave him that idea. Like it hadn't really occurred to him that was an option maybe or something. But he's like, this brilliant man was like, why don't you just fucking figure it out, dude? And he's like, I guess I could figure it out.
There's so many great seeds planted in this movie that it's easy like in hindsight to say we're foresight to what they were going to do later. But I think more so it's when they're making the movies later, they go back and they watch and they're like, what seeds do we plant that we can use?
Yeah, what can we use?
That's a great one. On a more action side, I love the so when they have Loki in the Quinjet and then Thor shows up to try and take him back, and Cap, Thor, and Iron Man get in a fight in the woods. And, you know, you could parallel it to when Cap, Thor, and Iron Man are fighting Thanos in Endgame all together. Cinematic history. But you see little stuff like when Iron Man learns that when Thor hits him with the lightning, it overcharges his suit. And they use that in Endgame against Thanos.
Yeah.
They might use it at another time, but that's the one I thought of.
I thought they were going to use it in this movie because he was running out of power.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe they'll call back to that. But
they don't need to. They're saving it.
They waited.
They saved it. Same with Thor's hammer with Mjolnir hitting Cap's shield. It like devastates that forest.
Yeah.
And that's a move they also use against Thanos in Endgame.
That's right.
So just little stuff like that. You're like, oh man, you can see where they learned that's what happens when they work together, I guess. When we work together.
We're stronger. I know also that like him boosting Natasha up so she could grab things. Like they've definitely used that a few times and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Those were it was really fun to see them figure out how to work together in that way too. Love Nat. Her intro in this movie is one of my top favorite intros.
It's so good.
Where she's getting slapped, where she's like, this idiot's giving me everything. I'm in the middle of an interrogation. I'm just like, he's like, huh? Like, I love it so much. Like, she's such a boss.
She's so good. I mean, look, I know I went off on Downey and we talked Ruffalo a little bit. The cast is killer.
They're all good.
They're so good. It was such a smart thing. I remember you'll see the headlines pop up now and again where it's like Marvel takes a gamble by casting these nobodies, Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans as Captain America and Thor, and like gamble paid off. I have always said the more of a fantasy movie you're making, the lesser known names you need in it. Because like just going back to Lord of the Rings, can you imagine how different it would be if Sean Connery had been Gandalf? That's the story, is that he turned it down.
Really?
And they got Ian
Sean
McKellen.
Connery?
And not that Ian McKellen wasn't a renowned actor, who it wasn't his first role or anything, but he wasn't a household name. And yeah, Sean Connery comes in, and Sean Connery famously said, "I read the script and I had no idea what the fuck was going on, so I turned it down."
That sounds right.
Or Viggo Mortensen playing Aragorn. I mean, even Elijah Wood, sure, he's known as a child actor, but Dominic Monaghan, Liv Tyler might have been the biggest name in that movie at that point.
That's weird to think about.
Right? And again, all of them had
Hugo
done
Weaving.
stuff. Hugo!
Hugo!
People have been like, "You see proof? That's my man Elrond."
Here's some fucking proof.
Uh-huh. He used to have no sight. Now he's got foresight. Point being, I think it's smarter because I think when you see a movie star in a fantasy role, it takes you right out of it.
Yeah.
But if it had been, just randomly Brad Pitt as Cyclops or something, it would have just been Brad Pitt as Cyclops. And Brad Pitt's a great character actor.
True. But we all saw Troy, and, it didn't help. He was as good as he could have been.
No one can save Troy. No
Him
casting
and Eric
choices.
Bana? Who else was in that?
Eric Bana, Sean
Who
Bean,
also played the Hulk.
Orlando Bloom.
That's right.
Eric Bana, also a Hulk.
Bana.
And also, I would say from then to now, Chris Hemsworth has come the farthest. Because he's good. I love the first Thor movie. I think he does a great job at the fish out of water stuff. I think it's funny, but it's not too funny. I think Kenneth Branagh did a great job directing it. It's very Shakespearean. I love the first Thor movie. Having Chris Hemsworth pop back up as Thor in Avengers here, he's great. He's perfectly Thor. But when you look at his performance in Endgame, or you watch even watching Furiosa recently, I'm like, this guy's come a long way. Just in his talent, I think. I think he's grown a lot.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point about these movies is that they took it very seriously.
Yeah.
Everybody is like, it's not about the powers, it's about the person.
Right.
And so I just need to play this good character, and they happen to have these advantages that are also drawbacks in other ways.
Yep.
And how do they live, and who do they love, and how does it affect their life? And they're thinking about it like character actors. And I remember we got really mad at Susan Sarandon.
Oh my God.
Fucking
Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle. Because she was so phoning it in.
She's checked out.
Susan Sarandon can serve when she wants to.
Yeah.
But she clearly had decided it's just some dumb superhero thing. And she could have really made something out of that role, because that was a pretty cute, for a DC movie, it was pretty good.
It was a typical villain, but there was...
But she could have had fun with it at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
she could have chewed some scenery at least.
Yeah.
But she was not even there.
And
I
the
was like, come
contrast
on.
with everyone else in that movie was having the time of their lives.
And making us care.
Yes.
And so it's like, I did not care about her because she ain't care.
Yeah.
So it's like, there is something to that where you're like, the more you are seriously saying this character's motivations matter.
Yeah.
I know it sounds dumb, but it does matter.
It reads.
Because it makes the whole thing more real.
Yeah. Speaking of Chris Hemsworth, a line he gets in this movie that is, if I could ever in real life have a chance to say this earnestly to someone.
Oh.
A throne would suit you ill. A throne would suit you ill.
A throne would suit you ill.
I just want to be able to say that for real sometime. I just want to tell someone that a throne would suit them ill.
I can think of a few people who need to hear it.
Almost everyone should be told that.
Probably.
Thrones don't tend to suit anyone well.
Not really. That's why Thor is so good. He gets it. He's like, this is a service position. If you're doing it right, this is a service job.
Yeah.
Not, it ain't
Yes.
Mr. Walk around be an asshole.
Yeah, Thor's like, I work for the people who elected me.
But yeah, I was thinking he has the silliest kind of lines. They're most outdated. They're the most Shakespearean.
Yeah.
But he does it so well. He really does. He loves it.
I think he
was
learned a
he
lot from
fucking
Kenneth
did it.
Branagh.
I think so
who
too.
directed the first Thor movie, and Kenneth Branagh, renowned Shakespearerean director.
Which I remember when he was announced as a director for that. I was like, that makes perfect fucking sense.
Yeah. Shakespeare in the Park. Is that a great line? Tony Stark line. Shakespeare in the Park. Dost thy mother know you weareth her drapes?
Drapes, that's right.
So good.
Oh my God.
Another great line I wrote down. Let me know if Real Power wants a magazine or something.
That was a great
Nick
one.
Fury, classic. There are a lot of just like, you can't help but kind of chuckle lines, like break the tension. And again, we talked about this a little earlier, but that's something that Marvel took to its absolute extreme, where you've got some tension and you cut it with a funny line at the end. That can be like a great cathartic little moment. You're like, oh, this scene is like a lot. It's intense, or it's just like too much melodrama or whatever. And then Nick Fury walks out of the room and says, yeah, well, let me know if Real Power wants a magazine or something. Wow. Great job, Nick Fury. But they take that to such an extreme in the later movies where you have a real moment, like, you guys actually made me feel something, Spider-Man and Tony Stark, and then you just undercut it with this joke. What's the one? The worst one is Spider-Man says, what's the point in having a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood to protect? And I was like, what a great line. What a great line. What is the point in having a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood to protect? Spider-Man, of course, he's got to go look at the bigger picture and make sure that the world is saved, because it's about his local community. And he says that, and then Tony stares at him, and he says, well, that didn't make any sense, but you know what I meant. And it's supposed to be like one of those funny record scratch jokes. And I'm like, you ruined a perfectly good line. Guys.
Could have just left it. Could have just
leave it
kept
there.
that.
We can handle it. We're okay.
Well, and that's what I think, that's just, as you say, just a lighter hand in earlier films with that sort of thing. I was thinking about in Winter Soldier, Civil War or something, when Cap is talking to Natasha and she's explaining how she got a bullet wound or something. Yeah. She's talking about some wound and she's like, and there you go, no more bikinis for me. And he was like, yeah, I'm sure you look terrible in them now. And it's like such a great little funny line. And it is completely just a natural, she smiles, he smiles, but like they move on. Yeah. And they're still talking about deep shit and crazy shit and high stakes and whatever. Yeah. But, just like people do in regular conversation, you say a little something and then you get back to business. Yeah. And so I think it's in these recent movies, they really do want it to end. They want it to be a button every time. Yeah. And that's what's not working. It's like it can be weaved in a little more naturally. It doesn't have to end the scene every time. Yeah.
Don't let people feel.
And that's what they did so well. I mean, what the fuck was so amazing about Infinity War was that we all left the theater being like, oh shit. Yeah. Like we felt really crazy after that film. Yeah. And lots of people were dusted and it was like, what? You made me feel crazy. It was awesome. Yeah. That's what a story should do.
Yeah, and you go straight to Twitter back when it was good and you're like, what's going on, everybody? Who got dusted? Yeah. Loki is thinking that he's tormenting Natasha. Of course, she's just getting information out of him again, like she do. She mentions Hawkeye, and he asks something like, oh, is it love I'm sensing? And she says, love is for children. I owe him a debt. And I was like, love is for children? I don't think love is for children.
Only children love, or you can only love children. I don't know.
I don't like it. Just felt icky to me. I'm like, maybe love is for fools. Love is for, consenting adults.
Love is for consenting adults.
That's what
I
owe
him
a
debt. You'd be like, what the fuck?
Would have thrown him off his guard,
though. Are you saying he doesn't consent? Wait a minute. Now, Loki's like, I'm suddenly so interested in y'all's, whole thing. So, where did you meet? And, who talked to who first?
Loki ends up being the best matchmaker.
I know. He's like, actually, hey, Nick, I don't need a magazine, but I do need a carton of ice cream. And my girl's going to need one, too. Listen, we have some business to get down to. Nat, start at the beginning. Who's your perfect man?
We're going to play MASH, okay? I'm going to do the spiral.
That's right. Mansion, apartment, shack, or house. Ooh, I hope you get mansion. That'd be so fun. I could come over.
Help me. Okay, this could be a long episode. Help me break down Loki's plan here, because I think it gets a little muddled.
1,000%.
She's like, he's going to unleash the Hulk. That's his plan. And then that's not even what he does. I mean, I guess you could say the staff was sort of causing it seemed like the staff was causing the anger in that room to kind of build more than it should have been.
It's like a Horcrux situation.
Yeah, and then you do see Bruce like holding it, but I didn't see Loki take any direct action towards Bruce besides mentioning him twice to other people.
Yeah.
And then that's not what helped him out ultimately, and it was incidental that Bruce even turned into the Hulk after Clint showed up and blew up the engine on the ship.
Yeah, that's why would he want to turn him into the Hulk while he was also on the ship? And why would that have required him to be on the ship? Because like Nick Fury's like, why is he the only one I feel like wants to be here? And I'm like, but he never. Why would he want to be there? It didn't ever have anything to do with anything.
He didn't. There should have been something for him there that he needed to get.
Yeah.
Because I think it seemed like, they implied that he got captured on purpose and this was all part of his plan to get rescued, which I guess the argument could be he was just trying to throw off these Avengers, but he didn't know about the Avengers existing. He didn't even know most of these guys were a thing until they captured him.
Yeah, how did he even know about the
plan ahead of time? I mean, he said Clint told him about Natasha, so maybe he filled him in on all these. Maybe. But even then, it would have been like weird to be like, okay, Clint, tell me about every file they have on every random freak in the world, and I'll formulate what I think they're gonna do about it. So I don't know. The Loki plan that fell apart for me a little bit.
All together, it doesn't really hold any water, because they don't 100% understand how this army was going to help him take over the world.
Oh, that's next. Yeah, for sure.
At all anyway.
Go
so
ahead.
It was like, regardless of whatever he was doing on this ship that he thought would help with the war / Nick Fury or whoever he thinks he's worried about. Okay, so you went to Stuttgart, Germany, and like 30 people kneeled and you were excited. And then they messed up one part of New York, not even all of New York. It was just Midtown.
Just Midtown.
And they all went to get shawarma afterward, and it was fine. So I'm like, how is this exactly gonna?
I was wondering this probably for the first time while I was watching the movie this time. What was the Chitauri army's mission and goal? Like, what were their objectives here? Because it seemed to be break buildings and fight the Avengers.
Right.
And I was like, but what were they going to... There's the one scene where they have a bunch of people cornered in a bank, but it also seems like they're about to kill them.
Right.
So are they just there for mass slaughter? Are they there to enslave?
Right.
Are they there to subjugate? And like you said, and going back to what I said at the very beginning of this episode, what happens when the actual military shows up? Which, by the way, where was the actual military before they sent this nuke in? They didn't try some ground troops. They didn't send a tank and some helicopters and shit.
There were those cops that were like, they're about to send in the National Guard, or, it'll be however long before the and he was like, don't they know what's going on? And he's like, do we? And I was like, who cares? It's a fucking invading army, and you get the fucking army. That's what you do.
Yeah,
where the fuck are they?
And
why are we having trouble scrambling the National Guard?
And let's say that these Chitauri, who again would have fallen very easily to modern American military weaponry.
Probably.
Because it didn't. I mean, a guy with a bow and arrow was regularly taking them out by the dozen.
Natasha punched one.
Yeah, I mean, these were you could fist fight these guys. I don't think they would have held up against the actual United States Army, let alone on a global scale. So what happens?
And one of our nukes killed their whole
thing.
Ship.
So what happens had they taken Manhattan? Had they killed all the Avengers and taken control of whatever that means, the island of Manhattan? Right. Then what? You've got a whole globe left.
Exactly.
My guys.
That's my thing. I'm like, so you're going to open a Tesseract in every major city? Or are you just going to let that big worm machine fly
they just gotta
they
just expand
China?
From there?
And be like, hey, China.
Yeah,
also,
your
you
turn
didn't
now.
even know what's going on here. You didn't even know, but here I am.
Yeah, and then now you got to contend with the Chinese military, which if on the outside chance that you beat the American military, what do you have left to fight France and
so on.
England and NATO
Russia.
and Russia and China and Japan and Australia? Like, everybody's
Even if
got a
they
military.
don't fight for each other, they're going to fight for themselves.
Yes.
At the very least.
What I'm saying is this was a lame-ass attempt by Loki and the Chitauri.
And a great point.
Yeah.
That there seemed to be zero strategy.
Yeah.
Loki, a throne would suit him ill because
Yes.
he has no strategy or vision. And all he wants is the adulation and flowers.
Yep.
Someone like that should not be in charge. Also, I think there should be something called Chitauri Takes Manhattan. And it's what happens in Muppet Takes Manhattan. What happened in that movie? Maybe that's what would happen.
But it's just the Chitauri. Also, electronic hive mind aliens who, once their ship blows up, they all drop dead. Because I gotta say, that is one of my more pet peeve like movie solutions, is when you kill the head one and then all the army of minions drop dead.
Yes.
Come on.
How
guys.
much cuter would it have been to have some of them being like, oh, well, now I don't know what to do because the portal's closed. They can't get home.
Can I?
Right?
Yeah.
And so they're just like, are they POWs?
Can I take out a loan and start
Are
a
they
business?
tourists? Like they go, they're just like, what do I do? like
I'd like
they
to
go
integrate
see the
the
Empire
society.
State Building.
Oh, I'm sorry. I kind of tried to blow that up.
That's the Chitauri Takes Manhattan.
There you go.
That's the part that comes in.
The leftover Chitauri who
They get
surrendered and then they did their time
Mm-hmm.
and they were released back into society.
That's right.
And now they just got to find work.
Rehabilitated, and now they're baristaing at a Starbucks.
The Chitauri, can you imagine?
Oh my God.
I mean, I wouldn't hire one.
No, when he put his helmet off, they had a real crazy face.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact,
sorry.
I said he was baristaing, but there's no way he'd get an FOH job. That's back of house face, if I've ever seen it.
Late night cleaning crew.
That's
Chitauri.
that's the overnight
Well,
janitor job at
now
best.
the Chitauri are going to unionize. They're going to
No
start
offense to
pointing
overnight
out.
janitors. I'm sure you're very beautiful.
I
Just
have
saying.
met some beautiful custodians
some
in my day.
Gorgeous
And I'm like, what are you doing working
people
after
that
hours?
work back of house too, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you shouldn't be in the back of a
Unbelievably
kitchen somewhere. You should be in front of a camera.
I need to see you. And they're like, that's why I'm back here. I don't want to be seen.
Fair.
Fucking stop looking at me.
Wow, Chitauri Take Manhattan. I'm into it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the movie. Hulk looks amazing. The CG in this movie, 2012, is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first of all, I get frustrated when CGI doesn't look really good now because I'm like, guys, it's looked. I mean, Gollum popped up in like 2004.
Mm-hmm.
There's no excuse in the year of our Lord 2024 for some bad CGI. Second of all, I also similarly get really bored when the most CGI wins best visual effects.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see you do something really creative with it. You don't like photorealistic 3D aliens and creatures and monsters and stuff. Yeah, I'm not impressed. I'm happy to have them. I'm glad they're there, but it's not something that blows my mind when I see it anymore. So you've got to get really creative to win that Oscar, I think.
No, Hulk looked great. And that was another, again, just some good character work in the CGI too, because right before he changed the first time and Natasha is so freaked out.
Yeah.
When they're on the, what's it called? The aircraft carrier?
I can never remember the name of that
It's called
one.
something, right?
Yeah, something.
Whatever. Whenever they're on that thing.
You know what? I'm glad I don't know.
That's right.
Sometimes
You know
when I
what?
don't know a Marvel fact, I'm like, good for me.
Good for you, babe.
I saved a little space.
You don't need that information.
The
so
Quinjet
don't
is the little one that they,
Oh.
but I don't know what the big one is.
But I don't know the big one. Anyway, there's just a look on his face where he's like, oh no. You know, like he looks really upset.
Yeah.
You know, again, just the character matters. It's not just about making him look cool.
No, and I think in terms of the graphics, it was also, and I'll say they've not necessarily held up to that standard in every Marvel project since then, for the same reason that we talk about the characters and the dialogue and the script and stuff. It's that they don't have to prove it anymore. And I think that's the real problem. And I think they do need to get back to proving it because their audiences have been slipping and people notice and the things aren't as good. But like when Avengers came out, they had so much to prove. And if, for example, Hulk, who looked good in the Edward Norton one
Mm-hmm.
and looked embarrassing in the Eric Bana one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
if he didn't look so good, then that's a miss, and they just needed everything to be airtight for this movie to work. So they worked really hard at it. I loved another just little character thing here at the end when Tony shows up. Tony goes armor off to talk to Loki at the top of Stark Tower. And I thought this was so smart for him to... I never really paid too much attention to the context of this monologue he's telling him in. It just sounds like an ad for the Avengers for the trailer. But what he's saying is all of this comes back to you. This is your army could win, but we're still going to come fuck you up. And I thought this was so clever because it's showing that Loki's character, it is all very personal for him. This is all about his own personal glory. Tony calls him a diva because he doesn't really care about the army and beating anyone. He just wants his throne. And so the threat of, your army could take over New York, but we're still going to come after you. Everyone is staring at you. Everyone hates you. Really shakes him. And I thought that was great. I just hadn't really paid a lot of attention to that threat before, and what made it special. And I think that's what it was. I liked it a lot.
Do you think that Tony knew what to say to him because he figured out that he was a lot like himself?
Now I definitely do.
Because he had just said, well, he's a full tilt diva. He wants the main stage, the spotlight, a big old tower with giant tower with his name slapped on the that's what I have. It's my fucking tower with my name on it. So I wonder when you were saying that, I was like, I wonder if he was like, oh, well, I know exactly how to get to this guy.
Yeah.
It's how it would get to me.
I think that's totally true. Because Tony would feel that same way too. If everyone was like, boo, Tony, we don't like you. That would be the worst thing that could happen to him.
It always gets him.
Yeah.
The thing with Phil Coulson dying, I was like, that's a continual theme with Tony, is that whenever someone is like, here's a face of someone who died because that maybe could have been prevented or because of you or because of a situation, whatever, it comes really personal with that one face. I mean, it happens so much when that lady is mad at him about her kid and he's guy, we should go with the Sokovia Accords and I'm going to make Ultron and I'm going to fix everything, and he goes real crazy off the deep end. That was just like this. He's like, I'm here for Phil, I was like, oh man, he really takes that shit
He takes
to
it
heart.
personally when people make it about him.
Yeah.
That's his, that's his exposed heart.
That's right.
That piece of shrapnel always trying to work its way in.
The home is where the arc reactor is.
Aw. You need to nuke New York.
You need to nuke New York.
No. Why was that their first
horrible idea?
Okay. Second of all, why wasn't their goal to shoot a nuke up through the portal? I was like, why don't they just be like, we're going to shoot a nuke up through that portal? And then maybe Nick is like, well, that seems like a crazy idea. What if something goes wrong? And they're like, well, we're doing it. But for the fact that they were just like, the portal's open, we're going to nuke New York City and kill everyone in the Midtown Manhattan. Portal's still open. Still aliens coming through.
What's it going to do?
Dumb.
Insane. I was also like, sus vibes on the pilot. That he was so ready to drop the bomb.
Hey,
they had no compunction.
Just following orders.
And there were two of them because Nick stopped one of them.
Right.
So it's like, two of y'all ready to just nuke New York.
This time, I don't think this is what happened, but this time I considered, what if that was the guy who was trying to stop the guy with the nuke and Nick Fury blew up the wrong jet?
No! Oh my God.
He's like, Nick, I was trying to stop him.
It's like, oh my God.
Nick's like, look, I see a jet. I blow it up with a bazooka.
I thought it was a guy.
Look, we could go another 3 hours.
Easily.
Talking about the Avengers and the subsequent and the predecessor films. And
I will say it did feel like not a standalone movie. Watching it, you really did have to have a lot of context for the people. I felt like you did because it was like normally when we watch them in the order they came out.
Yeah.
And so watching this one, just haven't seen the ones before it since the pandemic, probably. Right. I was like, I know all these people, but like, if I didn't know who Jane Foster was because of the Thor movie, that scene where he's like, we took Jane Foster to a very remote location or something, to be like,
Sure.
okay. When he's like, even Cap's whole thing with the ice even would, I don't know. It just felt a little like, it felt like the middle of a story. You know what I mean?
That's interesting because I was actually thinking the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was, and it's hard because I can't not know what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't extract the MCU from my head and wouldn't, with a few exceptions, like those goats.
Yeah.
But
the goats.
The goats. Although Russell Crowe was great.
Russell Crowe was
Russell
good.
Crowe. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Love and Thunder.
We were talking about Proof. We were just talking about Hugo.
Yeah.
And Russell Crowe is also in the MCU.
That's because everyone's in the MCU at some point.
So true.
But anyway, what was I saying? I felt like watching this movie that there were little nods in there like that, like Jane Foster and stuff that you could just, you know, that you haven't seen some of the movies. You're like, oh, I guess that's a reference to the other movie. But I felt the story was pretty self-contained and the characters were fairly well explained, just in terms of like Captain America. He's from the past. He fell in the ice and he was frozen and he just woke up. Thor is Loki's brother and they're both from a place called Asgard and they're kind of gods. And Iron Man is Iron Man. It felt to me enough. Here's what you need to know. And anyway, movie's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's interesting to think about it in the opposite way too. I don't know. If you've only seen the Avengers, God help you, but please let us know what that's like.
God help you. Damn. Let me know what that's like. What in tarnation?
Nebraskans, if you've only seen, I just can't imagine getting to the year 2024 and being like, here's the deal. I skipped every Marvel movie and then I decided to watch the Avengers and I never watched another one after that.
I just watched that one movie.
Unless you hated it.
Right.
Which is fair, but I don't want to hear it.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing is that some of the story is, as we've noted, like the plan of Loki's and stuff, it's not really there. It's such a skeleton plot, sort of, in order to propel these characters, that maybe it just feels a little, that's why it feels kind of like a bridge story to me rather than
that's fair.
One you could watch on its own.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was still real fun. Lots of fun.
Or if you have seen the whole MCU, but you recently got conked on the head and you have amnesia and you want to go back and just watch Avengers, let us know how it feels.
That would be really interesting situation.
Shoot us an email. Yeah. I mean, out of our 386 million listeners, I feel like one of you probably has that situation.
386?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's slightly more than the population of the United States. Because we have some Australian listeners and Canadians.
Wakandan?
I wish.
That'd be dope.
If we were the hottest podcast in Wakanda, I would have questions.
I mean,
we shouldn't be.
Probably not. I don't think it would be us.
No.
I don't think it would be us.
No. They'd be like, I'm not going to do the accent.
Don't. I don't recommend.
They'd be like, what in tarnation is this podcast?
Tarnation?
We gotta go.
We don't do that here. They don't make podcasts in Wakanda.
They don't need to.
That's why we're the only one that comes in and they're like, oh, it's pretty good.
It's okay. The AI makes them watch these movies, I guess.
I mean, our AI is a lot better, but, we're not sharing it, obviously.
And they also dog sit, and it's a different dog every time.
I mean, who doesn't want to see that?
Pretty good podcast. YouTube
who doesn't
only.
Want to see that?
Yeah.
What do we have? Rhinos. They have dogs.
Yeah, they got armored rhino. I never saw a dog in Wakanda.
I didn't either.
I don't recall if there's a dog. If you've
dog
ever been to
Wakanda?
Wakanda, write in. Let us know if there are dogs. Because
so.
otherwise, if there aren't, I don't want to go.
Going to Wakanda.
I used to want to go to Wakanda more than anything. But if there's no dogs,
oh my God,
it's got to be a dog, right?
There's someone in Wakanda has a dog. Surely, there's dogs all over the world.
Well,
there's dogs
I don't know
in every country,
because
right?
they kind of have a cat thing.
Wakanda?
Yeah,
Well,
The one
mean,
big cat that they pay a lot of attention to.
Still.
Look, as I was saying 3 hours ago, we could talk for 3 more hours about the MCU, but we should probably find out what our movie is next week.
Good idea.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be another blockbuster. Maybe it'll be another Proof. But there's only one way to find out.
That's right.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Leroy the dog.
Yeah.
So tune into YouTube to see him, and then we'll find out what our movie is next time. All right, well, Leroy didn't want to jump up in a chair with us, but that's okay.
We came down to him.
We came to him.
Leroy.
He's the sweetest boy. Senior dogs are the best.
He's a doll.
Hey, buddy.
Say hi, bud.
Say hi. Tell everybody what you thought of the Avengers.
Thought it was pretty good.
So.
You know, they come a long way.
You could really use a dog in Wakanda.
Isn't that right, buddy? Okay. Say bye, Leroy. What the hell are you doing? Well, that's Leroy, the sweetest dog
Angel.
in the world. What a good boy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, y'all, there appears to be another glitch in the AI. I guess it got a little too close. It was a little too taken with the line, "A throne would suit you ill."
And now it wants to sound like that.
Yeah, apparently the AI is stuck speaking like a citizen of Asgard, a lord of Asgard. So AI, I guess, let us know what the movie is we have to watch next week.
Greetings, mortal! I am Thor, the mighty son of Odin, and I bring forth a challenge that will test your knowledge of the Midgardian cinematic arts. If thou dost not guess the film I have chosen, the realm of Midgard shall face my wrath. Heed these details carefully.
Oh, Lord.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
buddy. Look, I know some people who take the MCU a little too seriously. I may have dabbled in that myself a little, but this is a lot.
Well then thou shalt face my wrath, for I am the Lord of Thunder.
All right, well, give us the details we must
Heed
heed.
my words, they carry the very weight of destiny. This film was released on the 14th day of the month of October in the year 1994th.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth. Well, the fourth.
The forest.
The 94th year of the 1900s. Very well. And now you've got me saying it. Very well.
Very well.
Very well. It is contagious.
The genre of this film is a drama, but do not be fooled, for the genre also includes crime. Guess now, ye mortals, or face the wrath of the Lord of Thunder.
You know what's weird to me is Lord of Thunder,
Mm-hmm.
but his thing was lightning.
It was, yeah.
As we learned from Fleetwood Mac, thunder only happens when it's raining. She didn't say nothing about
Players
lightning.
only love you when they're playing.
Yeah.
I love not,
Oh.
whether thou playeth or playeth not. There shall be no love for me.
Damn. I'm
Ah,
sorry to hear that.
Doesn't sound like Thor to me, quite frankly.
Thor is a very loving,
Very
and
loving.
wholesome guy in
Very
many
loving.
ways.
1994 drama crime.
I mean, like Boiler Room, right?
First of all, try 1999.
Oh,
Boiler
was
Room.
it? Okay.
Look,
Mm.
Vin Diesel, Giovanni Ribisi.
Oh, was that Vin Diesel?
Yeah, it was one of Vin Diesel's first well-known roles, and he was very good in it.
Oh, I thought that was Pitch Black was one of his first well-known roles that he was kind of good in. And then
Pitch Black was hot garbage. Boiler Room's pretty good.
Okay, Reindeer Games.
You're all over the map here.
Heat.
Oh, Heat is probably closer to what we're
Okay,
talking about
all right.
here.
When did he come out?
I don't know, 94-ish?
Hey, it
In
might
early
be Heat.
90s? Give me an actor in this movie.
Very well, mortal, I shall reveal one of the thespians who graces this cinema with their presence. The top billed actor is John Travolta. Now ponder this revelation and seek more knowledge if you dare.
1994 John Travolta.
Drama crime.
Face Off?
I feel like that's an action. There's no drama in Face Off.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's the drama of him putting his hand on everyone's face. It felt
I
pretty
hate
dramatic.
it so much.
No, I'm wondering
I'd
if
be
it's
like, get your fucking fingers off my face right now.
First of all, I think this movie is called Sparkle Nights and Darkest Days. And it's a crime movie about John Travolta, who obviously plays opposite.
Rebecca Romaine.
All right, and Rebecca Romaine, and it was called, I forgot what it's called, Sparkle Nights
and Darkest
Days. And they are trying to find a jewel that was hidden by a crime lord under a bench somewhere in Central Park.
Wow, just under a bench.
Yeah, he's not a good crime lord.
Terrible crime lord.
Yeah, and it obviously gets stolen by someone else.
That must be the Sparkle Nights.
And Sparkle Nights because the jewel is at night. It's sparkly.
Sparkly.
People see it. Some guy sees it. He takes it.
Because of the lamps.
Yeah.
You should have thought about those lamps.
Never thought about the lamps. That's the problem. Really, it's an anti-lamp movie. It's one of the first of a series of anti-lamp movies from the mid-'90s. People were really mad about all the lamps in
Just like
in
turn
Central
off
Park.
the lights.
Yeah. Yep. That's the one.
Listen, 1994 drama crime with John Travolta. What about that one? Doesn't he play like a lawyer?
Yeah,
That
lawyer.
was like civil.
I'm just wondering if it's fucking Pulp Fiction.
That is a really good guess. It could be Pulp Fiction.
Does this movie have a guy named Zed in it?
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
Is it Pulp Fiction?
You have spoken true, mortal. The film is indeed Pulp Fiction. You have proven your worth and spared the realm of Midgard from my wrath. Well done! Ale for everyone!
Great. Yay,
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction.
Okay, I guess it's been a while since I've seen Pulp Fiction.
It's been a while since I've seen Pulp Fiction. I always have a good time when I'm watching Pulp Fiction. Mostly.
I wish it was like Reservoir Dogs or one I haven't seen.
You haven't seen Reservoir Dogs?
No. I saw Jackie Brown. You haven't seen Jackie Brown, right?
I haven't seen Jackie Brown.
AI, don't give us the one we have seen.
Yeah. So join us in watching Pulp Fiction, and we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's ever talked about the movie Pulp Fiction before, so
Much like the
get some
Avengers.
fresh takes, yeah.
It's not covered territory, you know? For some reason, people just leave well enough alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
With those two, but not us. So thank you so much for listening. AI Made Us Watch is a Squirrels in a Trench Coat production. I'm Diana Banks.
And I'm Eli Banks. You can follow the show on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at AI Made Us Watch, or you can follow me. I'm at Oh Great, It's Eli.
And I'm at Dynamite Boom. Special thanks to our Patreon touring masters, Barbara Banks. And you could be on this list too by supporting us on Patreon at AI Made Us Watch.
That's right. You can also drop us a review or follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever real human podcasts are downloaded. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week for Pulp Fiction.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now we're trying to save the world as we race against the clock. But at least we don't have to